Now,
The toughest word that you're going to have a problem with is regresará. Will return your call. It's regresará, the GR.
hola, John Fedro here with mobilehomeinvesting.net, and if you're watching this video, you have a problem that many of us, primarily English-speaking folks, have, and that's communicating effectively with Hispanic, Latin, Spanish-speaking folks in your area. Now, if you're like me, you took a few years in high school or in college, and you still can't speak hardly a word of Spanish. You're embarrassed when you try, so you don't really typically try. And so that kind of brings up a point, whether you're talking to sellers or buyers, there's a couple different things that you're probably already doing with your real estate investing business already with regards to Spanish-speaking folks. You're either A, not doing anything and trying to kind of avoid those folks, or you're already receiving some calls with some Spanish-speaking folks, either buyers or sellers. You have ads out there, English ads for the most part, and you still get calls from Hispanic-speaking sellers. So you're not trying to market to folks that speak Spanish, but you get those calls anyway. And then thirdly, you are actively, wanting to take advantage of and help and capitalize on Spanish-speaking folks in your area, both to help purchase homes from and then resell homes too. Now, in my opinion, there's a couple different strategies you can use depending on how proactive or reactive you want to be in your mobile home investing business or real estate investing business. Now, in my opinion, there are 6 strategies, here they are, to help you communicate more effectively with Spanish-speaking folks. By the way, I hope that video editing looked as cool as I hope that it's looking. So with that said, I think that this is important to realize that you should kind of already have a reputable, or you should know how to invest in real estate already. If you don't know how to invest in real estate already, you've never purchased or resold a single family home, a mobile home, then maybe don't start with a Spanish-speaking seller if you've never worked with a Spanish-speaking seller before. Let's take a look at what some of the options are that you have when working with Spanish-speaking sellers. We'll talk about sellers at first, then we'll talk about the buyers. But when you're talking to Spanish-speaking sellers, if you call up a Spanish-speaking seller, or a Spanish-speaking seller calls you, a very reactive type of solution you can have is to say, well, do you have any friends or family members or neighbors locally that are at your home right now? Does anyone there speak English? English please, does anyone speak English? You can kind of keep saying that over as politely and as sincerely as you can in the hopes that somebody maybe calling you speaks broken English enough to then put somebody else on the phone.
Even if they can speak some English, they will always tell you that if someone speaks Spanish, they would prefer their language better.
Put somebody else on the phone, a neighbor, a friend of the family, somebody, well, that would be kind of it, or maybe a family member, a younger child that is bilingual that can speak on your behalf. Now, that younger child could be as young as under 10 years old. I've had conversations with children trying to speak to their parents about learning more about the home and information and a selling price and lowest price and repairs needed. And it can get a little weird playing the telephone game with a child who's now talking to their parents, and then they're trying to tell you, and then the emotion that you have doesn't exactly come across to the child, and they're trying to do the best that they can. But this first method, very reactive, not proactive. I mean, this is like the lowest, easiest thing that you could possibly do if you wanted to put no mental energy towards working with Spanish folks. So the first thing you can do is work with, talk to the friends and family members. If you have an appointment or you do set an appointment using this method, that family member or friend may have to be there, or neighbor, may have to be there for you to translate, unless you bring your own translator.
In person would be better, but they can do it over the phone. But in person is always best.
So the first option that you have is really reactive, and that's what I'm going to put. I'm going to put an R right here for just really reactive. You're not actually taking any kind of forward progress to help working with sellers. You're just, happening to, if they do call, then you'll take, you'll be able to help them if there's somebody local. So it's kind of the roll of the dice. If there's someone local that can speak English, could you potentially help these buyers or sellers? So this one's very reactive. The others that we're going to talk about are very proactive, and we'll talk about those in just a minute, and that one's obviously reactive, a little bit, do nothing. Let's talk about hiring a translator, because it goes a lot deeper than just hiring a translator. Right here, in my opinion, when you hire a translator, the point of hiring a translator, let's actually put them to work. Let's actually put them to a lot of work where you can talk to and hopefully help a lot of sellers that speak Spanish. Hopefully a lot of people in your area that are English-speaking investors, they're not trying to help Spanish-speaking sellers or buyers, which is a huge market, a huge demographic of people that I love helping, both buying and selling homes to. So the first one is very reactive. The second one is proactive. That's a P, hiring a translator.
The fact that you made an effort to have someone there for them to talk to means a lot to them. I'm being completely honest.
You're going to hire a translator to help you go to the appointments, talk to sellers when you're at the appointments, close when you're closing. If you happen to maybe close at the subject property, if it's a mobile home, obviously if you're closing at a title company or real estate attorneys, they're going to have a translator there for you. But let's talk about this one a little bit more, because in my opinion, how it should work is you're going to first advertise to buyers and sellers in your market. The front half of your advertisement might have an English message on it. The second half or the back half of your advertisement or postcard or letter or message or a newspaper ad or Craigslist ad or radio spot, something like that, is going to be English and Spanish.
My material is in Spanish and English, and my bandit signs are in English and Spanish.
So when people call the number that they're told to call, they will go ahead and talk to a Spanish-speaking person.
The first thing that I would do is all your answering machines or your answering services, if you're using an answering service, has to be a Spanish-speaking voicemail or answering machine. So if you don't have someone live answering in Spanish, that's okay. But at least the message that you're recording should be in Spanish and give them instructions on what to do next.
So you want to go ahead and hire a bilingual answering service and provide them with all the questions to both ask the buyers and the sellers who call. Now, when that happens, you will go into step 2, which is begin advertising with your bilingual marketing message. Direct anyone interested to call your bilingual answering service, and the answering service will likely email you a daily report of the calls and the questions and answers that they asked. I mean, it makes sense. When people call in, the people on the answering machine service are going to take the messages, they're going to ask the questions, they're going to vet the people who are calling, ask out all the questions that you want, and then you're going to receive that back at the end of the day. Usually every business day you get a report of who called and who didn't. Or not who didn't, but who did, which leads us to step 3, hiring a Spanish translator or work with the local bilingual friend. Now there's companies, there's a National American Translators Association. You can also go on Craigslist.com. You can also check, like I mentioned before, your local Real Estate Investors Association to see, who they use as translators. Or probably there's going to be somebody there who's also an investor that speaks Spanish, and depending who that investor is. Maybe they're very seasoned, maybe don't know what they're talking about, but that could be somebody. It could be a friend that you just meet or that you just met maybe a couple weeks or months ago that also speaks Spanish that you can work with. So that brings us to number 4, call the Spanish-speaking sellers and buyers with your translator. Be on a 3-way phone call. Set an appointment if appropriate. The translator must be available to meet with you for appointments to see the home. Follow-up appointments, and additional phone calls if needed by the buyer or seller. Now, when you work with a local title company, a local escrow office, a local real estate closing attorney, they're more than likely going to have a translator available or in-house as well. If not, then your translator can work with you, and you're probably going to pay them either, by the hour, usually not by the minute, but usually by the hour. You kind of have to round up sometimes. Or it could be by the minute, depending on the service you use. Or it could be a flat fee, depending on what you work out with your local friend or this other investor person. And the end point is obviously to make the seller or buyer feel comfortable enough to where they can ask questions to these Spanish-speaking people, and then the answer can come to you, or the question can come to you, and you can deliver an answer, and that answer can be delivered to the seller or buyer.
I think every culture has their certain traits, and well, it's true. Every culture has we're all different, yet we're all the same. And the Hispanic culture is very big on trust.
So it's not magic. I mean, the only thing we're doing is making an easy, streamlined way for Hispanic-speaking people to get in front of you, to talk to you, to understand your message. Maybe in the future, if we all speak one language, thousands of years in the future, this won't be needed. But for right now, this is the things that we have to do to help capitalize and work with buyers and sellers. So This leads us to number 3, in my opinion, which is use a realtor. Many of us don't use realtors as if we're dealing with mobile homes. But then again, if you are, it's completely viable. I mean, if you just want to be a real estate investor where you want to buy something on the MLS and you want to resell it on the MLS, go ahead and use a realtor. I mean, absolutely nothing wrong with that. If they speak Spanish, have 2 or 3 realtors. Actually, that makes sense to have the 2 or 3 translator people that, if one goes on vacation, you can hire another one. So purposefully try to get 2 or 3 that you like and trust, which will be really helpful.
I'm very consistent, so I like to have 1 or 2 people on my team that do the same thing just in case that person's out of town or something. People do have private lives.
Now let's actually talk about working with a partner. This is one of my favorite types of strategies because it gets other people into the deal and it's really cool. And there's something different. We talked a little bit about partnering on hiring a translator, which starts off by using a live answering machine service. So you're going to be proactive and advertise both to English and Spanish speaking sellers, or English, and Spanish speaking sellers, both of them. And then when they call, they're going to get to this answering machine service. They're going to talk to the answering machine service. Then the service is going to let you know who they are. You're going to use your translator, possibly your partner, to then go ahead and call that person and either get on a 3-way call so you can talk to them, or if you trust your partner, the partner can talk to these sellers, possibly set an appointment, go to the appointment, or go to the appointment with you, and this partner could do a lot of the work or a little of the work depending on how much they want to be involved. So let's talk about working with a partner and why that's important, because if you have a trusted person who you work with, then you can go ahead and have that person call your sellers or your buyers back. So if you get a phone call just out of the blue one day from your advertising, and it's advertising where you're getting calls, so you're probably expecting it to be an English-speaking person, but it's a Spanish-speaking person. Well, what do? You don't even know if this is a caller, if this is a seller or a buyer or a money lender or anything. You don't know who they are because you can't speak the language. So with that said, hiring a partner is going to give you the option to then know what to say to this seller, to then say, or buyer, and say, listen, my Spanish-speaking partner is going to go ahead and call you back. So that way we can understand, what's going on and we can possibly help you. So there's a few different steps with regards to partnering. The first one is, of course, to find a Spanish-speaking person to work with. Pretty common sense. And if you already know that person, it's a friend or another investor or a family member, that could work out great. Now, the second thing to consider is decide on a compensation. Now, when deciding on a compensation, there's a couple things to consider. How much activity does this person wish to have in the deals? What skills, attributes, or capital does he or she actually bring to the table? And again, if this Spanish-speaking person is a realtor, perhaps you could use them to resell the home, instead of actually, partnering with them on this deal. And then is this investor person more seasoned than you? If they are, maybe they can teach you a few things. Or if not, you're going to teach them things, so you're going to actually teach them while they're helping you, translate, and then they can learn more about the business and also make a little bit of money. Once you and this investor or friend or partner figure out what a win-win compensation for them is going to be, it's important to have this Spanish-speaking business associate teach you how to say, hello, my Spanish-speaking partner Frank. In this case, Frank is the investor that you're partnering with. It could be anything, but in this case, it's Frank. So you're going to, this other person is going to teach you how to say, hello, my Spanish-speaking partner Frank will call you back as soon as possible. Thank you. Goodbye. And you should learn that and commit that to memory in Spanish. Let's actually cut right now to a clip of Esmeralda, who you've seen a couple of times in this video already, who's a wonderful, very active real estate investor friend of mine. And she's going to go ahead and teach us how to say, hello, my Spanish-speaking partner Frank will give you a call back soon. Thank you and goodbye.
Mi socio Frank, que habla español, le regresará la llamada lo más pronto posible. Gracias.
Okay.
Now, the toughest word that you're going to have a problem with is regresará. Will return your call. It's regresará. The GR is tough.
Is there an easier way to say that? Will respond quickly, or will?
No.
Will no. That's it. Okay.
No, my associate Frank will return your phone call.
Promptly.
Mi socio Frank le devuelve no. Regresará. Regresará la llamada. The call.
Okay.
Will return the call.
And ya llamada?
La llamada is your phone call. Mi socio Frank, que habla español, le regresará la llamada lo más pronto posible. Gracias.
So once you've committed that to memory, it's really just business as usual. When you receive a Spanish-speaking incoming call, you want to say, mi socio Frank que habla español le regresar su llamada lo más pronto posible. Gracias. Or another saying that you choose. If you have another saying in Spanish that you think is better and is applicable to this, please go ahead and comment it below. If not, then you're more than welcome to use that line to go ahead and have this caller, just obviously understand that you're going to hang up right now, and then in a couple minutes or in a little while, your partner Frank is going to go ahead and call them back at the number that obviously they were calling in from. Most of us use cell phones and we see who calls. Which brings us to step 5. Hang up the phone and inform your business associate to call the Spanish-speaking callers back. They may be buyers, they may be sellers, who knows? But Frank or your partner can go ahead and then call them back. Now, again, if you heard me say it, very gringo, very white. I'm sure I butchered it. And we all, have listened or have heard foreign people trying to communicate with us. And how does that make you feel? I mean, you obviously know that there's, a Spanish speaker or a Latin, well, not Latin, French or, some other type of language that you just don't understand, but they're trying to make it work. And you can sort of usually understand what's going on. So even if you're butchering it, that is usually fine. They know that you're very not Spanish, so that's okay. Your Spanish-speaking friend should obviously speak the language well.
We put a huge emphasis on trust. Hence the translator needed, because if they can speak just a little bit of English but their primary language is Spanish, they would prefer to speak Spanish first. That's by far. And it's very important that they understand everything and that they trust you. So it's better if you have a partner who's more likable than you, and that's okay, because we all have different personalities. No, sometimes that's true. I have actually gotten some deals because they didn't like the other guy, because I was more of a likable personality than the other guy, so I got the deal versus the other guy.
I believe that absolutely.
It's very true. It's very true. So you have to be likable, and you have to attempt to speak the language, even if you don't speak 100% Spanish. That's okay. Even if you try 10%, to speak a little bit of Spanish to them, they see that you're making an effort, and you get an E for effort. You really do.
Wow, okay.
We love that.
Even with the basics that we learned in just the basics.
Just the basics. If you can pick
okay.
up some things on YouTube or Google Translator. I actually know of an investor who does some things on Google Translator, and he doesn't know anything in Spanish, and then he'll actually go out there and he'll talk to them, and the fact that he tried, he got the deal.
And what Esmeralda was just talking about right there really leads us to the fifth option that you have, which in my opinion you should be doing already. Learn Spanish, even if it's just conversational Spanish, even if you don't want to even take it to, fluently speaking Spanish. Conversing in Spanish while you're at a closing table, while you're at an appointment, while you're just walking around a property. That's just something I think everyone who's watching this should do, at least in some respect. It's going to get some, if nothing else, it's going to help build some rapport. If nothing else, it'll help build some rapport with regards to the buyers and sellers who you are working with. I really hope that this video has been somewhat helpful to you, and at least understanding that your business may be lacking a little bit. I mean, you're helping so many people in your area, but one area where you may not be helping people is, the foreign-speaking folks. So I really hope this was helpful. Thank you so much again for watching this. My name is John Fedro with mobilehomeinvesting.net. Any questions or concerns, please comment them below. Never hesitate to reach out to me at support@mobilehomeinvesting.net. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great day. Adios.
And they're very good savers, or we are very good savers, so most of the time they don't have a problem with the down payment, and they prefer to put more down for a less of a monthly payment. So they don't like high monthly payments, they like low monthly payments. So if they have to put more to get that low monthly payment, they will do that.
Interesting. Are they looking to pay things off sooner rather than later?
Yes, yes, that's another thing. I'm glad you brought that up. They actually like to pay things cash. But they don't like to finance long-term. I mean, 30 years is a long time for a lot of them,
Yes.
and they'd rather pay them cash. So if you can do something, if you can work with them for, you know, maybe 15 years or 10 years, some of them say they'll pay it in 5 years cash. And you're like, you don't have to do that, but they will.
Super special thanks to Esmeralda for helping me with this video. Head to reileverage.com to check out some of her videos and everything else that she's doing. Super active, awesome investor. Thank you so much for your help.
Thank you.